Becoming a mother is learning about the strengths you never knew you had and knowing about the fears you never knew that existed. Being a mother is like stepping into a blind alley. It's like that difficult exam, however hard you prepared, everything seems to be coming out of the syllabus. Welcome to Mom's Bookshelf. I'm Shabina Zaidi, your podcast host. And today we have with us a boss lady turned mom lady, Mariana Missakian. She's the author of The Suburban Lady. And let me tell you that she's also a researcher. She's researching about the leadership positions at the top, the gender gaps in the leadership positions. So let's hear from Mariana herself. Mariana, how are you doing?
Hi, Shabina. How are you?
I'm great. Welcome to Mom's Bookshelf.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
It is going to be an interesting conversation since this podcast is called Mom's Bookshelf. And you are somebody who's written a book about motherhood. And there are very few mothers. They have written something about motherhood, leadership. This book is a satirical memoir. You've written this book during the lockdown or before lockdown?
Well, I started writing it in 2019 and I ended up publishing it in 2021. This is a book. Yes, it is a memoir about motherhood. And I really like what you said, because the reason why I wrote this book is because I couldn't find any books out there that depicted or told story about raw motherhood. All the books on the New York Times selling, if you want, bestsellers list, even the movies in Hollywood or the articles I was reading in the magazines or on the blogs, I couldn't see someone talking about motherhood the way I was living it. I couldn't see someone being a mom the same way I was, because we are living in the social media era with filters,
with glam moms all over Instagram, and you feel like you were doing something wrong.
I was judging myself. I kept on judging myself, and I kept on saying, exactly, why me? What am I doing wrong? Why can't I have it all? Why can't I be this glamorous mom with a well-behaved son, with a clean house, with a six-pack? And I was just, doing it and being it. And because I couldn't see a story that looked like my story, I kept on even more doubting myself and even more doubting about my story and judging myself, until I realized, you know what? My story is my story and I need to own up to it. And the minute I said that, and the minute I started writing these stories and talking about them out loud, magic happened. What happened is that I started seeing mothers coming to me, approaching me, talking to me with the same stories, with the same realities, with the same difficulties and challenges.
The magical power of telling stories. So it's so important to tell our story, because somewhere there may be people who are living stories like you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they can resonate with you. So
exactly. Because we don't see these stories out there. They are not the popular stories. They are not stories making the headlines, And in fact, when I was in the middle of writing my book or my stories, and even when I finished writing my book, and I would approach publishers and they would tell me, we can't publish this. This is too raw. This is too real. This is too painful.
Oh.
And every time, Shabina, they would tell me that, I would have this new found confidence and resolution that what I am doing is the right thing.
Yeah.
And even it got to a point where one of the publishers told me, is this fiction?
Okay.
This is my truth, the raw truth, the real truth. And this is why people, mothers, women resonate with this, because like you said, they find their story in these pages.
And you had the courage to write it down, because usually mothers face all these scenarios, but they don't speak up. They don't speak for the fear of being judged.
Yes.
And I think we have placed moms to be so supernatural that as a mom, you're a mom, how can you complain? You're a mom, how can you discuss about the gray side of motherhood? But there is a gray side towards motherhood. And that's the reason even I have written now my book. So that speaks about the gray side of motherhood. It is also a memoir. And I really like the way you've written your book. Sometimes as moms, we are, trying to pigeonhole ourselves as per the standards of the society. And this is such a beautiful thing that you've written. And I'm going to read something which I have taken from your book. It says, people whom I worked with stopped calling me. Nobody bothered to meet me because I no longer signed their checks. Promoted them, they no longer needed me. And you know what? It really pains.
Yes.
Because you had been a city girl. You had such a great career. You were into a corporate for 15 years, and then you took a sabbatical to take care of your baby. And suddenly when your life, changes, there is a drastic difference between whatever you have dreamt, whatever you have lived. And now there is, everything is upside down. You don't have any experience with this and how to deal with this. So how was the transition like?
Oh, Shabina, you're taking me 10 years back, and I'm reliving all those days, and I'm reliving everything I wrote in my book. And it's been a while since someone called me boss lady. I stopped being a boss lady for 10 years. Honestly, Shabina, it wasn't a transition. It wasn't a transition. This also reminds me of one time I was asked, how did you feel when you held your son for the first time? And I said, there wasn't a time to feel. Look, I just got goosebumps. Because we are all looking forward for that Hollywood moment, aren't we? When we hold our baby for the first time and we're sobbing or crying, or, I don't know, Mozart is playing in our head, but that is not.
That euphoric moment, it's not there.
It's not there.
It's so bizarre that I have also written the same thing in my book, because I have experienced that. There was nothing, that euphoric moment with me as I held my first baby.
It was the same. It was the same with me. There were no bells and whistles. It was the same thing when I came back home with my son, when I did the transition from corporate full-time boss lady to full-time suburbia lady. And it was not a transition. It was very blunt, very sudden. But for me, it wasn't subtle. It wasn't transitional. It was very subtle. You have to choose. You have to choose now. I was told you choose your family or you choose your job. And thinking about it, really, I was young. I was a new mom. I didn't think that was a strange question to ask. And I said, of course, I will choose my family. And I walked out and I never looked back. But looking back at it now, much wiser now, much mature. I've been a mom for 10 years. I've been researching mothers and women in leadership for 10 years, talking about motherhood for 10 years. Looking back at it, I think, how did the company itself think that this was an okay question to ask a mother? And this is part of my research, because as mothers, as superheroes, we are put on a pedestal.
Yes.
And from that pedestal, we take superhero-like decisions, if you want. So when we are put in a situation, it's a flight or fight, then we will always fight, because we will show you how powerful we are, how super we are, how unbeatable we are, how resilient we are. But knowing now what I know, I don't think I would have walked away in that moment. I would have faced them, and I would have invited them to a conversation. And this is what I'm trying to do with my research. There is no black or white. I have learned this. There is no right or wrong. There is no right choice or wrong choice. There's a choice that works for that specific mother and that specific situation and that specific company. And if we are talking about mothers who work, there's a choice that fits that mother and that company and the situation. So there's always an opportunity for us to have these conversations in the corporate world or even within our society. Why are we constantly being judged?
Yeah.
That means that we are constantly being pushed to choose. But is that choice coming organic from us? Is that choice based on our values? We need to take a moment and we need to take a step back and say, why am I being asked to choose? Based on what? And why am I supposed to take this choice now? Based on what? And these are the things I talk about in my book. And these are the things you refer to being put in a box, being a mom at the time as a full-time mom. Okay, you need to fit this list. You need to fit this box. And I wasn't fitting, even as a full-time mom, I wasn't fitting the box of a full-time mom because I was having these doubts. I was having these strong emotions that I wasn't sure that I wanted to be there, or I wasn't sure that this was the right place for me to be there as a mom. Because what happened with me is that I was a boss lady for 15 years in the city, wearing suits, stilettos, walking into boardrooms and meeting rooms and getting things done, making things happen. And when I became a mom, a full-time mom, we moved to suburbia because I say that's where full-time moms go, because we don't belong in the city anymore. We go to belong or to be with many who are like us, So suburbia basically is a family society where you have schools, parks, on the outskirts of Dubai. But so I left the city, I left my job, I became a full-time mom and went to suburbia. But it wasn't a transition. It was very subtle and I didn't know how to deal with it. And again, this was a choice imposed on me. And I didn't have time at the time because I was still raising my son. I didn't have the time or the knowledge or the maturity to say, do I want this? Do I need this? Is this what I want? Or even, how do I take advantage of this? How do I benefit of this situation? Because I was in a whirlwind, questioning myself, judging myself, and being judged at the same time.
I think when the kids are small, you have a lot of confusion because moms in present time who are raising alpha generation. It is so important to focus on our careers because career is so important to us. And at the same time, kids are also very important. So they are kind of juggling between the two, or there's so much fog in the brain. There's so much confusion as what should we opt for, and should we focus on the career? Should we take a break and focus on the kids? So there's so much of confusion.
The thing is, we are suppose I say, to make those decisions quite fast because society or the business world or corporate or our office or our family demands us to make an answer. Are you going to work? Are you going to go back to work? So they demand these sudden answers. But there's something I write in my book, and this is not mine. I quoted someone. I don't remember the name now. It says, the mother is born when the child is born. Yeah. So, for example, whatever decision I took or whatever preparation, for example, in my case, I prepared my body, my soul, my mind, my financial status 2-3 years before even getting pregnant. But when I became a mom, I felt that all those preparations were enough. Nothing would have prepared me for motherhood. Nothing would have prepared all of us for motherhood because, and I think the statement is so true, the mother is born when the child is born. So we cannot take decisions on past experiences. We cannot take a decision on past roles and past opinions and past, perceptions. When we become a mother, and you said this in the beginning, we are reborn. We are reborn as a new person with new responsibilities, with new challenges, with new fears, with new anxieties. And instead of us taking the time to make sense of all this confusion, make sense of all this role, we are suddenly being asked to choose. Tell me, are you going back to work? And even if we say yes or no, we are judged both ways. Tell me, are you going to be a full-time mom? Again, either we say yes or no, we are constantly being judged for our decisions. I tell my son is 10 years old. I tell my son, people will always have an opinion for the sake of having an opinion. Not because the opinion is valid or the opinion is true or as a whole, as a consciousness, as a collective consciousness, everybody will always have an opinion, no matter what you do. So that's why it's so important that we take the time to look in and ask ourselves the questions. And when someone asks us the questions and we are not ready to answer, we are under no obligation to give an answer because we are still trying to understand ourselves, accept ourselves, and learn about ourselves in this new situation that we are in.
Whenever you're speaking about the things and the incidents are running in my mind, so I could recall this. There's a letter written to Jack Ma, Robin Sharma. That was really funny. And since it is a satire, so would you throw some light on that letter?
Oh my God.
That was really, really funny. And that was very appropriate because as a mom, you have garnered so many skills and you have honed these skills of emotional intelligence, conflict management, negotiations, and you properly written a letter. I think that should go viral.
Actually, yes. When I was still on my maternity leave, I was studying my first master's. So my first master's was in women in leadership, and it was on the glass ceiling in Dubai, because I always wanted to go back to work. We invest so much building our expertise, our business skills and all that, not to throw them away, but to actually use them to help companies grow. So I was doing my master's in the hopes to go back to work. And when I finished my master's, my son was at an age that he could go to nursery. He would start school in a year. So I felt in a much comfortable position and a much comfortable mother in that place to start applying for a job. And every time I would apply for a job, headhunters, people who have actually placed me in very high rank positions, me before becoming a mom, they would send me replies or call me back and they say, "Oh, Mariana, you are a mom now. We are so sorry. We don't handle moms, but we can give you advice." And their advice was always go find a mom group. Always go find a mom group. Now, in my head, I've never been to a mom group. I never went to coffee mornings and all that. And in my head, I didn't know what these mom groups were. But I say in my book, I think maybe these gentlemen wanted me to go and knit. I don't know what they think we do as mothers, or what am I supposed to do as a mother? So I went on LinkedIn and I wrote a new job description for me, because by then I wasn't working for, let's say, a couple of years, maybe 2-3 years. So I said, I'm going to put all my skills into a job description, because as you said, as mothers, we have patience, we deal with drama, we have to be empathetic, we need to be the boo-boo fixers, and the story bedtime. And all these skills I did not have when I was a mother. In the corporate situation, when I had to deal with team dynamics, or I had to deal with decisions and management and all that, I would go to leadership books, I would go to management courses, but I will tell you, I didn't have the empathy to feel what I was preaching. So when I became a mom, I felt that I learned all these new skills, new emotions. I was able to listen. I was able to pause, to absorb my son. I was able to calm myself down in order to calm him and understand him. And I felt these are so important business skills that can be amazing for team building and business building. So I wrote a job description and LinkedIn.
See, companies are losing on such a great perspective that when they're not hiring moms.
Exactly. This is what my research is about. My research is about to showcase the business advantage of mothers, because now I feel that we are maybe in a loophole. Let me put it this way, because now when we talk about mothers in the corporate world, we are talking about family policies. We are talking about mother friendly. We are talking about flexible hours, working from home. And all these terms are very nicely, but very subtly and gently putting working mothers in another box, in another fluffy box. And that is the family box. And I want to argue this, and I want to say we don't want family friendly, because we don't want to be treated differently. We want family inclusive, or more, we want mother inclusive. And that's a totally different conversations. From family friendly to family inclusive, totally different conversations. Why? Because I want to showcase the leadership talents, the leadership skills, and the leadership benefits of being a mom in the workplace.
I would like to ask you, since we can see that more and more women are joining the workforce now, and your research is about gender gaps at the top positions.
Yes.
So how did you come up with this idea?
Well, it was very easy. I looked at numbers. So I said, let's look, because my first master's was also in gender leadership gap. So when I was doing my second master's in preparation for my doctoral, I said, okay, let's see, how did the number change from when I did my first master's back in 2018 to when I started my second master's in 2022. Let's see what numbers changed. And I realized that the numbers changed in the bottom level. So the numbers changed when it came to gender gap. That meant when I did my first master's, the gender gap, the gender balance in the corporate world was around 41%. So we had 41% female in the workforce and the rest were male. A few years, so 4 years, the gender gap increased to 48%. So it increased by around 7%. But I went,
less women are hired on top positions.
So more women are hired now in the entry positions, but less women are hired in the top position. In fact, the
they don't reach the top position.
There are two. So exactly. Okay. There are two things. The gender leadership gap on the top, year to year, has been decreasing by 11%. Oh. And the biggest factor of this decrease, so it has been decreasing, let's put it that way. So the leaders gender gap has been decreasing by 11%, which means that every year there are less women on the top by 11% year on year. And this gap, that increasing gap on the top, on the leadership, has been even more, has become a serious issue after COVID. Because COVID has seen the biggest exit of women from the workforce because of so many reasons, because homeschooling or because the economy and all that. And because women exited on these by millions, the workforce, the numbers at the top, so we have now less women at the top. So I looked at these numbers. Let's put it very in a simple way. We have more women entering the workforce, but we have less women reaching top. And then we had the COVID. COVID was part of it. So I asked myself, why? Why are women entering in so many big numbers, but they are not reaching to the top? They keep on leaving the workforce. And I realized a gap that no one is talking about, and that is mothers. Motherhood. Motherhood is the biggest cause affecting mothers' career progression. Because when women are becoming mothers, they are dropping out of the workforce. And when I say dropping out, they are pushed out of the workforce. Some mothers, yes, leave by choice, but research shows that the biggest statistics, that mothers are being pushed out. And these are not aggressive pushed out. These are very subtle pushed out. And this has been proven to me by the interviews that I have done for my research. I've interviewed mothers for my research, and they have showed me, they have told me about how these subtle pushing outs are happening. So they change their jobs. They give them a new role that is a smaller role, a side role. So, and like this, these are tactics companies use to push mothers out. And when mothers think that these are not matching my corporate ambitions, because I always say we are mothers and we are ambitious. So when a mother sees that the new role or the new culture or the way she's being treated by these unconscious bias, they are not fulfilling her ambition, she will leave. Because we want to be productive, we want to be active, and we want to make a difference, but we want to be given equal opportunities to do this. So after figuring out this gap and after finding out all this data, I realized if we don't include mothers in the leadership conversations, the leadership gender gap will never be closed. We will never have enough women and men at the top, at the very top, if we don't start including mothers. It means if we don't start preparing the ecosystem, if we don't start preparing the framework of companies and economies, not only to absorb mothers, but to be ready for motherhood. From when they hire a fresh graduate, the conversation needs to start from there, because every single woman, every fresh woman is being hired for a job will have the same thought. Will this company support me when I become a mother? Will this company support me through my pregnancy, through my motherhood? And these are real questions. I spoke to 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, 25-year-olds. They have these questions on the back of their mind. And many of them, knowing that the companies are not ready to support them through their motherhood journey, through their pregnancy, they are consciously choosing not to have children. And not only they are choosing, Sabina, not to have children. I met a young lady. She told me that she is choosing not to be in a relationship because she knows the relationship will lead to marriage and marriage will lead to children. But she has spent 15, 20 years in that career. So we need the frameworks. We need to start from the ground. So when we hire a 21-year-old...
Such a big and deep impact on the society.
Yes. Yes. Did you read the recent news that made headlines? Japan, for the first time, as a government, they realized families are not having children anymore because of the work pressure. Yeah. And the government now is interfering to make it happen, interfering to help families have children. I don't know what kind of discussions they are having. This was the headline I read. But these are the kind of discussions companies and governments need to have. It's not when we have, as a company, it's not when our employee becomes a mother and suddenly we don't know how to deal with the situation. It's already too late. By the time a woman is pregnant or by the time a woman has had a baby, it's already too late. Is the system there to support her when she is first recruited?
Yes.
And if we're going to talk numbers, companies love numbers. The rate of hiring is what? Is 10 times, 20 times much higher than the rate of retention. So isn't it easier, viable, economically more suitable to retain the workforce we've already had for 10, 15 years rather than letting them go willingly or unwillingly, consciously or unconsciously? Isn't it that more profitable to the companies to go and invest in a system and a framework to make sure that their women workers and employees will stay with them?
Wow, that is an incredible research. And I think with this research, the companies are going to understand that there should be a framework where they can retain their mom employees much better and they can provide them support, not in terms of just shunning their work away or shunning them away, but providing them support in the terms that that is going to be beneficial to the company and to the employee.
Exactly.
As well.
I mean, this research don't lie. Companies who are led by women, companies who have women on top, companies who have women in their board perform better, outperform their competition. They deliver better value on stock. They deliver better value for their share. These are numbers or data not from me. These are very rigid and solid data being driven by research. So the companies know that by hiring women and promoting them to the top, they will benefit. And that's why I repeat and I say, you're not doing us a favor. You're not doing women a favor. We're not asking you to do us a favor. On the opposite, hiring us, retaining us, keeping us is going to grow your business, make it more profitable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you've chosen this topic and you're speaking about motherhood, because not many people are interested in speaking about this topic. So when I started writing, when my book was published and I started writing about motherhood, the challenges that a mom faces on LinkedIn, people would message me and tell me, why are you writing about motherhood on LinkedIn? This is not a platform. And I really felt bad.
Yes.
But because moms are an important part of the workforce.
Yes.
And if we don't speak about the challenges, we are masking away the reality.
100%, Shabina. We need to speak. I say women, especially in managerial, senior managerial and leadership levels, they need to lead with their motherhood. There's an opportunity here. Do you remember the news recently of the first female CEO in the Japan Airlines? It broke the internet, if you want. When the news reached me, the first thing I Googled was not about her qualification or her career journey or who was she competing against to get there. The first thing I Googled was how many children does she have? Because I think as women leaders, we need to lead with our motherhood. As we just been speaking about it, our skills, our talent, our advantages, we need to lead that.
A new perspective.
We can't hide it. We should not hide it. I speak very vocally on motherhood on LinkedIn and about mother leaders. So I would like to invite maybe the media or the PR agency or even the mothers themselves or the women themselves in the leadership. We have a rare opportunity. We have a rare opportunity when we are asked about our leadership. We need to lead with our motherhood. And the time will come. I believe in this. A time will come where all of us will lead with our motherhood. And a time will come when we are having an interview or we are being asked to talk about our leadership. We will lead by being a mom. Because being a mom is who we are, is part of our identity. It's who makes us who we are, better employees, better people, better wives, better sisters. And some of the mothers I interviewed for my research, they say very sad stories coming out of these mothers. They say when they go for interviews to find a new job, they leave motherhood out of the door. Or some of them, those who are working and employed, they say the same thing. They say, we leave motherhood out of the door. But that means leaving part of us out of the door. That means not being fully present by who we are and the company. And that means that the companies are not taking fully advantage of our whole. Why are mothers asked to leave their motherhood outside? How does that benefit the mother? And how does that benefit the company? And how does that benefit the family? So we need to come, and what you're doing is amazing. And I know so many other mothers started getting this confidence. So this whole journey started, like you said, by storytelling. Stories unite us. Stories change from me to us. We are in this together. And I said it so many times is that as mothers, as women, we will change the world, but we will change it one story at a time, one voice at a time. Your story will give my story courage. Your voice will give my voice courage. And together, one story at a time, we will make this happen.
That is such a profound thought.
When I did my TEDx talks, I remember I stood on the stage and I said, I am here on the stage, shouting Marco.
Yeah.
And actually the ladies in the audience screamed Polo back. And it was such an emotional moment because I didn't expect that to happen. But that is exactly why I chose to write my book, why I chose to tell my stories.
Your story is unique and that has to be told. Right?
And it will attract the other stories. It will attract. We are all of us, you, me, the mother standing.
And by reading our stories, people get that courage to tell their stories as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And as I said, that if moms are ready to tell their stories, it is so useful for the research as well, to understand the mindset, the mental health of moms, because these days, with the nuclear families and the society where, the society is reaching towards a pace where we have to be perfectionists.
Yes.
We have to be number one. Our kids have to be number one. And there's so much competition. So I think mental health is taking a toll.
Yes.
Right?
We want to be everything for everyone all the time. And that is not feasible. It's not feasible mentally, of course, to start it, but that is also not feasible from energy point of view. And it's not feasible from a physical point of view. I cannot be everywhere for everyone. Yeah. And this comes, I think, my conversations on seasonality as well. I talk a lot about identity and seasonality. When we consciously know that our life happens in seasons, meaning that in every season we have a specific role to play, that gives us the surety that we will manage to be all, but one at a time. We will manage to be everywhere, but one place at a time. And we will manage to do everything, but one thing at a time, one season at a time. And the concept of seasonality gives us the patience and gives us hope that nothing will be lost. And those FOMOs, I never believe of FOMOs. I always say, the joy of missing out, because every season and every role, I will focus on what is important for me in that season.
Yes.
And I know in the back of my mind, this season will end and a new season will come.
So when you were a boss lady, you were giving 100% to your work.
Yes.
Now you don't want to juggle between the two things. Although your son is around 10 years.
10.
10, yeah. Mashallah. So now, so when he was small, you turn into a mom lady. I think people call you mom lady.
People call me the mom lady. Yes.
Yeah,
and that was so interesting because from my book is called That Suburbia Lady. So I always say I turned from boss lady to suburbia lady. But recently, every time I'm in a room with strangers, I get the same reactions that I know you.
That moment. because you're very vocal about motherhood on LinkedIn, and that's a wonderful aspect. You've also spoken about, I recently read that was related to me. Yeah, the post about empowerment.
Yes. Yeah. I picked it up on you. I've been talking against empowerment for the past year or so. Because every other day, Shabina, you will see every other day, and I say especially on Fridays, I don't know why, but I see announcements. This company is initiating starting off a new initiative to empower women. That institution, that thing, this person has started a new foundation to empower. But we honestly don't need empowerment. They are so powerful.
Absolutely.
We need equal opportunities. We need equal access.
And then equity.
But when you say uplift, I said, this is the word I was looking for. Especially women, uplifting women. Yes, I say we need to hold companies accountable. We need always to invite men into the conversation. But women, we have an active role to play. And when I heard you say that word uplift, I said, oh my God, Shabina, this is, we don't need empowerment.
I also feel the same. We need
to uplift each other. We need to echo each other. We need to bounce off each other, reflect each other. That's what we need. So thank you so much for bringing that word into my life.
Yeah, I was just reminded of this. I think there are a few similarities in our books because your book is also a memoir and my book is also a memoir, although the writing styles are very, very different. I really love your writing style. It's funny, it's satirical, and the way you've written it, it's... I think people should read this book, not only mothers, but everybody, so that they can understand the transition.
Yes.
And how you've spoken about the time you landed in Dubai, you were a teenager, the kind of dressing you had, everything is explained, and how subtly it changed when you were a mom, and the Lululemon story.
That's one of the most popular stories.
Yeah.
The Lululemon story was the first ever story I wrote. When I wrote the Lululemon story, I didn't even think that story would make it into a book. I just wrote it for the fun of it because the experience was surreal when I went to try on the leggings, because in suburbia there are yoga classes, right, and Pilates class, and part of the community is that we go to these classes. And then I didn't have a legging because in the city we don't do yoga, we don't do Pilates. In the city we close deals, we do business deals, we sell, we go from deal to a deal. So I never had a pair of leggings. So in order for me to go to yoga classes, and I write that in a very satirical way in the book, and I say, I wouldn't have been allowed to enter a yoga without the official uniform. The official uniform is a Lululemon. So I had to go to Lululemon and buy the official uniform to be allowed. But when I go to buy Lululemon and I put them on, I thought that this piece of latex will have the magical power to transform me into the perfect mother I would see on social media, on Instagram. You know, I had given so much power to that piece of latex that I thought I would just transform like that. But when I put it on, I was, you know, I felt so conscious. I was big and lumpy, and I didn't feel graceful, and I didn't feel like a super mom. And I said, I need to write about this because I want to remember how I felt. This was one of the low moments because I was waiting for that magical cure. But there is no magical cure. Stories. It's a process of healing.
Yes, absolutely. So right now, I'm just immersed into the podcast. I want to learn from others' stories as I've learned from your story as well. So it was lovely to catch up with you and have an interesting conversation around motherhood, around leadership, and to getting to know about your research, which I really wish good luck for your research.
Thank you.
And what is your one message to all the moms? Should moms tell their
100%. Oh my God, 100%. And you mentioned this again and again during our conversation. Every story is different.
Yes.
But every story matters and every voice matters. This is such an important message for me. I keep on repeating it. No two stories should be alike. Of course, there are similarities because we are growing through the same similar experience, but no two stories are the same because how I interpret that story, how I interpret that experience. You know, you just said it. Both of us have written books on motherhood and it's a memoir, but my language and my voice is completely different than your language and your voice.
Absolutely.
My book will resonate with some while your book will resonate with more.
Absolutely. And see, I have also included a part of gender disparity, but that gender disparity is related to Asian homes and how gender disparity starts right from our kitchens. And you've taken it to some new realms, right, of leadership, gender disparity in corporate.
Yes.
So yeah, the things sometimes they are similar, but our thoughts are different.
Yes.
Our perspectives are different. We've come from different backgrounds.
Yes.
And unique. We have unique stories.
We're making a cake, right?
Yeah.
We use the same ingredients. We use egg, flour, milk, sugar. But those ingredients, we can mix them up in limitless amount of ways to deliver different kind of cakes. So each one of us is like that. We have the ingredients, but how we mix them, how we write the stories. You said it, culture, experience, background, language, everything. So I tell moms, if I want to tell them something, is that first of all, trust your instinct, trust your gut feeling. And second of all, trust your voice and just speak your truth. Because the truth is the way, and the truth is how we will all be united.
Yeah, absolutely. That was wonderful. And what's your one message to the companies, hiring managers, as per your research?
Dear companies, I tell them, actually, it's not a message, but it's a call. It's a call for action. Interview a mother every day, hire a mother every day, and promote a mother every day. So I asked them, ask yourself, did you interview a mother today? Did you hire a mother today? And did you promote a mother today?
Wow. Wonderful. That was a lovely conversation. How can people reach out to you?
I'm on LinkedIn, like I said. I'm extremely vocal on LinkedIn. I write all my thoughts there. And also they can find me on Instagram. Also Instagram, I share about my research, and I'm now training for a marathon as well, as if we didn't have enough challenges.
Wow.
So I share my journey on how I'm training for the marathon and I'm preparing for my research. But on LinkedIn, I write all my thoughts on motherhood and mothers and leadership.
Wow. And I wish you all the best for your research, for the marathon. And I think you have this surprising element every time. You're surprising yourself and others as well.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you, Shabina.
Yes. And for more such stories about motherhood, leadership, mental health, follow me on Mom's Bookshelf. That's my Instagram handle. And follow me on LinkedIn at Shabina Zaidi. So bye-bye for now. Thank you. See you later.